Looks like the webcam's got the wrong frequency. Oh well. The strobe effect will just have to trigger a few thousand people. 50 hertz. Okay. Yep, still making no difference. Okay, looks like we've got people rocking on up. I better message one person in particular. Let's see if they're up and about. Hopefully they can join. Hey, Paul Baker, Andrew Hughes, Funko. Okay. Get our browser window off to the side because eventually we are going to need it because I can't remember a diddly squat. So let's make ourselves a fake makefile. What's another simple project I've got? That'll do. Hey Warren, Flatlander, Alan. Oh, a whole bunch of people coming in. There's some solid block concrete. It's that's about 150 mil thick. Yeah, solid bricks. That's an interior wall as well. Oh, actually no, that's an exterior wall because this room used to be the outside patio, so that's actually 220 mil thick. Let's see. Mark got the. I kind of wish that I could have the chat window up elsewhere, but I can't do it. So, hey Jim, you did make it good. Hope the item. I hope things have kicked in for you. By the way, okay. Evening. All right. Let's see. YouTube's complaining. Yeah, not much I can do about it. My upstream is 6 megabit per second. It's actually a little bit too much for a very plain text display like this. So I'm just having coffee at the moment. No, it's not aerated concrete. It's just solid block. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable in summer and very cold in winter because it has no insulating capabilities other than just simply the time it takes for it to reach the new normal, the ambient. So yeah, it's not good. Not a good material to make out of a house if that's the only thing you're going to use. If you clad on the outside of it, put air gap and things like that, it'll be okay. But straight bare like this, no thanks. All right. Oh, good to hear, Jim. Good. So if I'm looking down here, that's because I'm looking at chat. Okay. Alrighty. So what are we going to code? Well, we're going to code increasing text size first. We're going to code a little piece of code program that I want for when I'm testing MacBooks, and that one of the things that MacBooks often suffer, like many machines, is a bad keyboard or a bad key on a keyboard. And you want to find a way to fairly quickly test that because it is obviously a user interaction type test. You have to go along and press all the keys. Now, I know they already exist on the internet. You can go on pretty much anywhere. You go Google keyboard tester and there's a squillion online testers. And there may be a couple of standalone testers and things like that. But I just want something that's extremely simple, and much like I have with my multimeter software and the power supply software, there's no whistles and bells. It just is exactly what you need, nothing more. And so that's what I'm going to try with this keyboard tester. I've been meaning to do it for quite a while, but I just sort of never get around to it. Anyway, so the reason for the title being, don't be afraid to reinvent the wheel. is because when you start projects like this, particularly if they sound like they're a fairly common thing, you're going to get a lot of people saying to you, that already exists, why are you reinventing the wheel? Don't bother, you're wasting your time, all that sort of stuff. You know, a lot of negative sort of comments towards what you're about to embark on. Now, if it's a project you're doing for yourself, there's no harm in doing it. You often learn something even when you reinvent something simple. Maybe not with Hello World, but even then, sometimes if it's on a complicated system or a new system like a new graphics widgets that you're using, there's always an opportunity to learn something new. So unless you're actually on company time and you already have a solution at hand, then by all means just go ahead, reinvent the wheels if you want to. Don't listen to people. That's the first thing you got to do, is stop listening to people, unless you're actually actively going out there and asking for help. That's different. But if you just want to do something, just do it. Doesn't matter if it's been done a million times before. I mean, if we all just stuck to the original wheel, we'd all be driving around on Flintstone rock wheels. And even they were probably an advancement on the first ones. So by all means, just have a shot. You never know what you're going to come up with. You might discover something new. Alright, yes, I'm using C. Okay, carbon API? Nope, no carbon. For this, I'll be using SDL too because it's portable. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. How about a device that plugs in the JTAG connector and gives you all the rails? I believe Howard's already done that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. And I just noticed my scroll wheel is starting to die because I resoldered it the other night and I didn't have the right one, so I had to put it back in, and I can tell it's misbehaving now. Let's see. Alright. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get to it. I've got a basic skeleton type SDL startup here. SDL2 is just one of those really simple to use graphics systems that I've got. Man, nasty cough. Get the tickle in the bottom of the throat there. Alright. So we've got the basic template there, and let's see, the make file is probably going to be wrong because with SDL2 you do have to do some other tweaking. Things like, are you using Debian? No, this is Ubuntu, which is, yeah, I suppose it is Debian really, but let's see, SDL config. When you're using libraries like SDL2, I'll just keep saying SDL for now rather than SDL2. To make it easier to build these programs, they often have utilities with them like this SDL2 config, which you can pass parameters to and ask for particular configuration outputs. Like if I want to know what libraries I need to add into my make file and all that, you can just call it on demand. I'm just going to like libs, and it tells me that's what I'm going to add. But instead of cut pasting that, you just actually put it into here. And I bet you I'm going to get this wrong because I seem to think it's actually supposed to be. Let's try if this works. To config. What was it? Libs. I'm pretty sure it's wrong. You'd think after this many years I would know, but no. Inks. CL2 config. Well, unfortunately, the only thing is it changes between each and every version. Static. Do I want static libs or C flags? Actually, we'll do it here. CL2 config. I like building these small programs as static items so that you don't have to have any libraries associated with them. Hey Teresa, my MacBook Pro A1708 needs to restart SMC after closing the hatch. Have you opened that thing up? Mark, that's just far enough, I think. Let's see. Did I break this? Yeah, I did, I think. Okay, we don't need the objects. This is the only trouble when you get copy files from an existing project, is that you almost spend just as much time botching around. Yeah, let's see. Okay, this is where already I need to include SL to config output into. Hey Pianov, how's it going? Something like shell or something. Oh, there it is. That's what I was after. It's probably still not going to be right, but yeah, that looks like I got it right. Okay. Now we get into the code. Looks like this was C++ code at some point. Ew, it's got Boolean. And, oh, disgusting. I hate it. I hate it when coders put the pointer type indicator right against the variable type, because it's actually not true. It works, but it's misleading. Okay, that's good. 37 criticals. The reason why it's not quite correct, in my opinion, is because if you have something like int star a comma b, it infers that a and b are pointers to an integer, but it's actually only the a that's a pointer to integer. B is just a normal integer. So really the pointer indicator, the pointer type, should actually be associated or bound with the actual variable that you want it with, not the type. Anyway, I see that a lot in code, and it's not a really bad problem, but it is misleading. If you know what you're looking at, then it shouldn't be. But sometimes when you're tired and you start making mistakes and stuff, like, here we go, number 11's also that. Yeah, again, see this. It seems like a small thing, but you get a lot of these small things together, and all of a sudden you've got code that's difficult to read. Sorry, I'm just getting through my coffee. That's the essential materials for the night. Pianov, we are looking into sending those boards to you, by the way. Okay, screensaver set but not used. Why not? Miss Yeti, I'm using Ubuntu. Alright, so we got our window. It's alive. It doesn't do anything. We should hit Q and it should quit out. I said it should quit out. It should quit out. It doesn't quit out. So we kill it. Why didn't you quit? E-type is still... Oh, that's why. Okay, so now we're actually going to get to the point of how we're going to code this keyboard tester. The first thing to know about keyboards is that they're not just a simple case of you press a key on a keyboard and you get that character magically coming through the wire. What the keyboard actually sends to the computer is a scan code, which more relates to the logical position or the logical key on the keyboard. And then your operating system tries to work out what actual character that's meant to represent, or what function, like as in whether it's enter, the shift, or control, and things like that. So if you're doing a keyboard tester, you don't really want to be testing for the individual letters or anything like that. You want to be testing for the scan codes that come up. And fortunately, things like SDL actually work quite well on the scan code level. And so that's also why I'm doing this in SDLs, because it makes it easy for me to handle the scan codes or check for the scan codes cross-platform without having to get into any nitty-gritty. Yes, scan codes and key codes. It's an absolute nightmare when you're trying to do user applications, but for this situation, it's kind of have an advantage for us. So we won't be dealing with the key codes so much, other than maybe in the display side of things a little bit. Actually, come to think of it, yeah, we're going to be bugger. Anyway, but the actual detection won't be a major problem. And Nick Vasey, what is the purpose of the keyboard tester? The purpose of the keyboard tester is I get, and so do many other people who do MacBook repairs or PC repairs, I get in quite a number, and it's very easy to miss one key that may not be working. Pardon me, either due to liquid damage or dirt or something like that. And so you want to have a quickish way of being able to just press all the keys on the keyboard and then know which one isn't really working. And as I said at the start, you can just log on to the web. There's plenty of internet-based keyboard testers, and they'll show up a nice pretty picture of the keyboard, and you can just punch all your keys in and it shows you. But I want something that's freestanding that I can include in part of my testing suite that just sits on a USB stick. I don't need internet connection. I don't have to wait for any of that. I can just run it as I need it and get the result as straight away. Coffee. But yeah, key codes, scan codes, user applications, international keyboards, all that sort of stuff, it really becomes a complete nightmare. But I'm going to dodge a lot of that. So if we have a look at SDL2 key scan codes. Okay, scan codes. We be identifying the layout and highlighting each key press on screen. Not really, Clay Freeman. I have a thought in my head as to how I'm going to do this, so we'll see how that pans out. I use random online JS tester, but they all have their quirks, incidentally due to layout related stuff. Okay. Alright, so this is looking at the scan codes page. So we see you can have the keys and the scan code and the key code value. It seems like they match mostly, but once you started getting into the internationalization and things like that, it becomes a real ugly mess. So we are basically just going to be interested in the scan code value. And let's see, I think it's like 110 or something. I can't remember exactly. How does a scan make up for a stuck physical key? It just means that it'll forever always be represented. What about LiraView? That is being pulled temporarily until I can sort out. I've got a person working on a driver for Windows at the moment, and there's just some natural life hiccups coming on. Okay, here we go. We've got 284 scan codes. That's what I was after. This is the table I was really after. So we're going to have all of these in our system, although most of them you don't really use. I mean, some of them are just like, well, that's really interesting. Did you see you got your brightness up, down, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we'd all like to drain Pernov's knowledge, download it into our heads like the Matrix. Okay, 284. Okay, first thing we'll do here, create a global structure. It's just a habit of mine. Key codes, scan codes. Let's go 300 because I like to round things up pointlessly. Trying to think of already you start having thoughts about which way to structure things. Like I could make it so that I just have scan codes and it's just ints like that. But I'm thinking maybe I should also have ooh. This is what happens when you program. You start thinking about a million different ways you could do something. And sometimes you can get stuck like this for far too long. Clay Freeman, the reason why there aren't more scan codes is basically because at about 200, 300, that's pretty much the biggest keyboard you'll find. That's the whole thing is, and then it's up to the operating system to decide how it's going to represent those keys in the operating system. Boom, boom, boom. I haven't got anything else for scan codes at the moment. That'll do. Always go for your first thought. Yeah, certainly for the first iteration, and then yeah, if you find I went down a wrong path, and you can come back later. Mm. Mm. See, if you're expecting an exciting stream, then by golly, you're going to be shocked because there's going to be a lot more of what I'm doing now, which is like, pulling out the hair, yeah, wondering while everybody's watching over your shoulder. This is as bad as actually when your boss walks in and he's wondering what you're coding. And you're like, I'm really doing something interesting and difficult, but now you've given me stage fright. Why do you use Windows 95? Because it's not Windows 95, and you know that. I wouldn't say I write in ANSI. I write in something that's called more like bastardized C, because I just take bits and pieces from every single C standard and mash them together. And so long as it compiles and runs, I'm good. And I'll leave the purists to cry tears of blood when they read my code. I don't care if it programs, if it compiles and runs and is cross-platform. I'm happy. MS-DOS 6.22. I'm not that advanced. This is CPM. Excuse me. Ooh, I'm not rich tonight. Bugger. Oh well. The bank just telling me the daily tally that came through with the job, the iPhone repairs. Okay. I may need this later, so this is going to seem like it's a bit obtuse the way I'm going to do this, but I may actually end up needing to add more into it later, so... The other thing is you've got to try and stop yourself optimizing before you even finish the code, before you even got to a working code set. So like this whole for loop can be optimized into a single mem set or something like that, but Sometimes you just got to leave it a little bit loose, and you may come back to it and need it like that later. It's not like you really, in a program like this, it could run a million times in the time it takes a person to click the button. So optimization really isn't necessary. Sinclair Basic. Well, I saw they brought out GW Basic. That was cool. Open source. I had a look at some of the assembly. That's pretty interesting. I didn't understand much of it, to be honest. Okay. Anyway, so what we do is we look for a key down event. This part here is it's a big loop, and if we get an event, if it's a quit event, we quit out. But if it's okay, that is not what I think it is. No, that's a lie. Okay, if again Google saves me. STL2 key down. I'm not Pernov. I just basically don't remember a damn thing. So every time I code, I'm either copying from my old code or I'm going back through and trying to remember what the heck I did. As the event type, STL key down, that's what I was after. Event type. And then we can go G is scan codes, E.key. Oh, give me just the structure of the. Yeah, Warren, that's unfortunately one thing you do remember is how much you don't remember. 90% Stack Overflow, 9% get confused when I'm looking at, and 1% writing code. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, actually. Really, I'm genuinely glad to hear that. Because the trick is to make sure you get the Stack Overflow answers, not the Stack Overflow question. That's always a bad thing when you get it that way, wrong way around. Okay, keyboard event. Oh, this is STL1. What I'm trying to do here is get the scan code. Okay. Keys? Right. So, scan code. Hey, Margarita, just so you slip in there. Okay, so all we've done in this tiny piece of code here is if we get a key event, we set that scan in the array, that global structure thing that we had, we set that to be flagged as a 1, so we know then that we have pressed that. And now we've got to represent how. Let's do a little bit of a cheat here and go F1 So some of you have already probably started to work out what I'm going to be doing with all this, as in how it's going to work out. Blah, 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 blah. trying to think what else. Hey Greg, how's it going? What if you press A on the keyboard and both A and S were triggered? Would you think it's a good keyboard, but it's not? I'm okay. That's probably a more advanced keyboard tester situation. Then I guess you'd be looking for stuck keys. But for the first pass that we're doing here, the one that's actually just going to get us started, this is how I like to work. I like to have a bit of a seeder program, a program that just does the bare essentials of what I'm after, and then I can expand out from that. I know there's a lot of other people who prefer to actually fully flesh out what they're going to do with the program in its final form in their minds and start coding straight to that. And some people work fine like that, but me, I've found I'm far more of the iterative, evolutionary type behavior, type developing person. Whereas, yeah, there's other people that will just sort of spend weeks chewing over paper and pen and, going over things in their head and then just spit out their final program, or at least something pretty close to it. That's unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but that's not how I work. Well, certainly for larger stuff, yeah, you have to plan ahead, particularly if you've got data structures and things like that to deal with, that you need to be able to reliably move between the different sections, and particularly more so if you're dealing with more than one person in the coding team. For small things, which is 99% of what I do, you can get away with the iterative or the waterfall model, take it whatever you want to call it, depending on what era of programming you learned, whether you went to university, whether you learned at home, or whatever. I'm going around in circles here. I think let's see if that compiles anyway. It does not. Oh, I know why. Yeah. Because we haven't set up a lot of stuff. Iteration 300 invokes undefined behavior, of course, because I mean, what? Yeah, size of -1. No. Actually, no, that actually is all right there. God. Sometimes the new compilers can end up creating you more grief. See, I'm in charge of maintaining a rather large project that was iterated over by its creator, and it's in a horrible state. They sort of like halfway through the iteration give up and run off. Rewriting has proved to be very complicated and sensitive matter. Anyway, let's see if this should. There we go. Okay, you can see it's now picking up all my, like, even backspace, tab, even cap locks gets a key code control, and let's see, different controls give different. Yeah, so it's all good. Now let's hope Control C works. It does. I do apologise for all the non-ASMR coughing there. I think that coffee left me a little bit coarse in the throat. Thanks, Jim, for setting that straight. Okay, so we're getting the key codes, we're marking them, that's great. Now, I suppose the next thing we could do is... So what I'm going to have to do is map. I'm going to have to give every single scan code a name. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, we can cheat. I love cheating. Okay, so we know STL already has all this. And that's a pretty ugly looking name set there. Okay, so we can steal this. So all this stuff here, this STL scan code V and all that, we can nick that from somewhere. Where is that defined? It'll be in a header file somewhere. There we go. Header files. Yeah, Corey, that's what I was saying before, is that yes, I can optimize it like that, but I may have other things I want to do in that loop later. So that's why I haven't bothered to optimize it down to the single thing. I did mention that I could do that. Okay, the buggers have done it as an enumerated, which is not quite what I'm after. Okay, we can still work with this. Why did you go and do that? Give me this back. Okay. Damn these websites stopping me from copying stuff. Okay. Hope that wasn't GPL. Everyone's like, dear God, what's the man done? Okay, so line 6-9, line 9. Okay, so 9 to 6-9. Do you use GDB? Not very often, actually. Very rarely. Very rarely. Usually I use things like valgrind or a heck of a lot of fprint commands and things like that. I'm really not what you would consider a normal professional type coding tool person. I tend not to follow the standard proper way of doing things in many cases. Okay, I'm just trying to work out a search replace sequence that I want to do what I want. So I'm gonna go with okay, STL scan code underscore dot star space equals 029 plus comma, except I want that to be the next variable, and we replace it into scan code second variable equals first variable. Damn you. I always forget whether I'm supposed to escape them or not. No. Sometimes dot star doesn't seem to work for me, so we'll go anything that's not an equals. Oh, crikey, what did I just do? Nope. Yeah, Vim sometimes, yeah, it has its quirks, but I could have sworn. No. Okay, let's do a simpler test first, just so I can remind myself. 969 equals. Okay, so it is supposed to be escaped, I think. I know it seems like it's a bit of fiddly work to start with, but believe me, it's worth it in the end. Ew, almost got it. Oh, I know. No, that should be multiples. Clay, do you normally use percent %s, like colon percent %s, and that gets you the whole file? I'm just kind of curious why it's only working. I can't point to the screen because you can't see why it's stopping here. But you can already see what I'm trying to do. Basically, I'm predefining the array text so that I can then use that to display on screen. But like I said, I'm not sure why it's stopping there. Chameleon. Is there a problem with my code? Okay, that there. Well, no. Ah, thanks. Yes. Well, strict. Thank you for that. A little plus or something like that. Thank you. Still, the code is not quite right though, because I need to now actually have strings, and this is where C++ is actually nice. Because otherwise, I'm just gonna have to butcher this and say, well, let's have ourselves a nice, let's say, 50 characters. Pianov is screaming his head off right now. Like, what a waste. I agree, it is, but it's a small piece of program. We will survive. Um, Nine comma 69. This isn't gonna work. I just realized. I can work it so it will work, but it's not going to work in its current form. You might want to initialize the scancode array placeholders for missing elements. Dave Boy, by default, there will be the 0 code in the first element. Theoretically, what's the bet at the way being? We'll get a nice long endless string of trash and then a segfault. It's always the fun way of doing it, eh? Okay, can't. So, int init struct g. Let's see, return 0. Thanks. there's a greater problem overall with all this, though. Because I'm going to have to change all this again. There's going to be some screaming. Let's go for the screams. 19 to 79. Okay. People are thinking, you could have hand typed it all by now. And you're like, no, you could not have. What is it? 79. 1979. I made this over complicated. Anyway, I'm going to run with it. 50. Boo! What do you mean unmatched? Hey, Carl. Discovery, we're not doing Windows. Anyway, and we don't actually really need to get into that. I'm going to go back to the simplified version because I basically just made a silly... Or did I? No, I didn't. Yeah, I could do the string constants, I suppose. For some reason, I hate doing constants, though. Yeah, you get pet peeves in coding. Yeah. Constants like that, they're my pet peeve. I mean, I know it makes it simple, but I think because I can't go back and modify them later, I think that's the problem. Because one of the plans I had in here was to actually nullify the string. Wrong. Oop, I have no idea where that went. Oh, God. Yeah, there is something I am going to do. I'm going to change that to control VM. There we go. We're not going to get pedantic about goddamn variable names at this point. Dear God, no. Yeah, if you're going to get pedantic like that, that's when I usually kick people out. It's like, that's the last thing you care about at this phase. You just go through, you get things to a running point, and then you go back and deal with that crap so that it's readable for everybody else. Okay, fine, I apologize. Brian meant this. He meant in terms of the typo there. Okay, I apologize. You can come back in the room now. GG equals G. There you go. You happy? Okay. 19. 319. Ah, so many goddamn backseat programmers. Right, well, that makes sense. Of course, we're supposed to make it character pointers. And this is where I shouldn't listen to people, because now I've gone and butchered what I was originally planning on doing. Damn it. Damn you people. I shouldn't listen to you. You just made me lose the original plan. Pair programming, yeah, I hate pair programming. That's why I don't pair program, let alone crowd code. When I see people going all crazy over how awesome crowd coding is and stuff like that, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. Okay, so what we'll do here, that scan code should be really, we need a different name for that. That should be key name. Scan codes, key name. And yeah, I know, I should hash define that. Hey Copaz, how's it going? Yeah, Travis, it's a flaw. I agree. Okay. Okay, so at this point we can now go there, and then we can say present S, and we go G key name. E.key. Yay, segfolded. Looks intellectual. It's just so I can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, I know why it's segfolded, because we didn't initialize. Actually, that's not why I would have segfolded. But anyway. 342. 342. It's because our start loop is wrong. And while I like to use the size ofs, we'll just hard code that for the moment. And that way we'll forget about it, and then when we have a really obscure bug later, it'll be because of that. Okay, so now we can left shift, right shift, cool. Even escape, yep. Now let's see, the fun thing is this is where the scan codes difference comes in. You see I've got KP7 whatever, that means I'm hitting the numeric pad. And I've got my numlock key on. But if I press the numlock key again, which funnily enough doesn't have a scan code, that is interesting. Anyway, if I press the numlock, so it should be the arrow keys, it bloody well comes up arrow keys. You bastard. It's not supposed to. Okay, what's going on here actually? I've broken my code. Oh, I know why the code's broken. Because I was typing in the terminal window and not in the tester window. Okay, so let's try that again. So I've got scan codes, numlock. If fine. I was wondering why numlock wasn't showing up because that was very strange. Okay. And again, it doesn't change the scan code even though the numlock is. So, man, that confused me. The Skippy's like 30 seconds behind even though he thinks he's right on the ball. Yep. See, welcome to what real programming is like. It's none of this like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Oh, I'm Bill Gates. Actually, Bill Gates was more of a businessman than a programmer, but I digress. You will make tons and tons and tons of these mistakes, and you will make mistakes that you know you are making. Like, you know that the window's got to be focused to take the keyboard input. You know all these sort of things, but you still do it because you're human. Unless you're Pionov. He's not human. He wouldn't do mistakes like that. Tux the Penguin. It's not a difficult language, really. C is extremely simple, but it's kind of like working with simple woodworking tools. A hammer, chisel, nail, screwdriver maybe. And they're very, very sharp. And so if you use them wrong, you'll lose fingers and things like that, or die. But as a language, C is actually exceptionally simple. Oh, by the way, you were wondering about multi-key press, so like we hold down the M, it's going to keep going, but let's see if I press others. If I press 2 at once, let's see, D and F, both show up. So that's because the SDL layer is keeping track of the events that are coming in and puts it in a queue, and it feeds the queue to me. So which one comes first, I can't determine always. All right. Do you know that XEV exists, or do you want to practice program? Rosen, the problem, here we go. This is the reinvent the wheel thing again. The reason why I don't use XEV is because it's not a macOS for me, and also it's not going to do what I want to do at the end here. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. People will tell you you're going the wrong direction, or why aren't you doing this and all that, and you got to have answers for it. It kind of also helps you focus on the reason why you're doing the project. Because sometimes someone will ask you a question and then it may twig something in your head and you kind of go, oh, yeah, thanks for letting me know about that. And it saves you doing one thing or another. Most of the time, you already know why you're chasing a project and you've already eliminated those questions prior to time. You've already gone through those questions prior to time. But when other people come up and ask you them, after a while, you perhaps do come across a little bit irritated because you've already gone through that process. You already know what you're doing. And so this is why most programmers like to shut doors, stay in the basement, in the dark, and don't tell people what they're doing until they've actually finished it. But yeah, so anyway, that's an explanation on programmers' behavior. We're cranky little buggers we are. It's our art. It's our little babies that we're making. And how dare you consider that we're not doing it for the right reasons. So, dear sir, are you copulating right now because you want to create another baby? Don't you realize there's millions of other babies? What's going to be different about yours? So don't copulate with robots. What's Joe and Non going on about? Press Alt F4. That won't work on Linux. Well, it will, but it won't do what you want. Okay, so we've got our scan codes, we've got our words to represent the scan codes. PHP, I actually love PHP. I know people hate it, but I love it. It was a very natural migration, or I shouldn't say migration, but it was a very natural step from doing C to then learning PHP. In fact, I barely felt any resistance to developing in PHP, but it was just like, this is C for web programming, and I loved it. It was fantastic. You got to remember back in this would have been like the late 90s, there weren't very many web programming languages on the server side that were that easy to use and also just that versatile. So when it's no wonder PHP exploded on the scene. It didn't matter that it was sloppy as heck and things were just mushed together. The fact is, it provided a platform for people to be able to get things done very quickly without tearing their hair out. It just generally worked, and it worked well. It provided a lot of functionality that people were just begging for. Like, I mean, the simplest things like being able to use the value of a variable as a variable name, things like that. It was an absolute revelation. So, as much as people poo poo PHP, it really did kick the whole scene off. It basically said, this can be done better. This is what we've done. If you guys want to go out and make your own improved versions, whatever. But the fact that PHP still to this day is extremely dominant sort of speaks volumes for how useful it is. There are better languages than PHP. I mean, it is an absolute melting pot of trash and good bits, and you got to sort it out yourself. But it's very functional. Sync is off. That's actually kind of unusual. Peter Allen's, it tends to vary. Sometimes you can do that. You can like have blocks of code that you just churn out and it works. And then other times you can add, as you said, a line or two and there. Audio sync. All right, let's see if this works. Ooh, I wonder if I've got buffering on this one. Let me check the buffering and then I'll reset. Buffering. Bloody buffering. Is this still out of sync? It's perfect now. That's funny. All I had to do was switch off buffering, and it's good. Awesome. Didn't even have to reset. That's brilliant. Yeah, Pianov, I mean, I agree with you that the easy way was also um, a bad way many times. And I think the fact that it was so easy to get straight to the goal that you were after without having to set up your normal security sort of things like checking your input variables and making sure you weren't just spewing using globals from all over the place. But yeah, I mean that aside, I still think it's definitely a language that has a lot of merit. All right, so we're back now. Basically, at this point, we have done the underlying technical part of what we need to do. What we now have to do is come up with a way of representing this in a way that, as a person testing the keyboard, you can very quickly see if things are working or not. Yes, C is the same. I mean, so easy to create a dangling pointer or all sorts of things, and you can crash and burn. But there are ways around that. And yeah, I mean, particularly these days with the modern iterations of the C standard, and you get things like SN all the N suffix type functions for string handling. And then, of course, the compilers have come a long way too, along with things like Valgrind. Use them in combination, and you can continue to use C, and you can do a fairly good job of being fairly secure in C. Well, that's true, Panov. Yeah, PHP. A lot of people going into PHP didn't realize that they were basically walking into a minefield, and they were the one laying the mines. Okay, so let's have a look. Realistically, okay, the scan codes actually go up quite a way. And me. So we've got left Q, right control, right shift, right alt. Wow, these are all over the place. Okay, so how many have we got in total here? 284. What's divisible with 284? Two obviously. 71 per row. It's a little much. What are the factors of 284? No. 4 obviously. Is there any bigger factor than 4 and 284? 12 probably, I think. Nope, wrong. Yeah. Yeah, 2. That's great. Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. 120, 180, 142 obviously. I'm looking for smaller factors. I was looking for something around about 5 or 6, but there aren't any. 70, yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Christopher Kelly. Okay, that's not a major issue. 121? What? Use binary. A lot of these we wouldn't normally encounter, so I can see in future versions of this I will be giving options to cull out certain things. There are 10 types of people. Haha. Yeah. Those who know binary and those who don't. Hmm. $34. Hey, Miran? Yeah, I like that one, Dave. 3 types, those who count and those who can't. That is nice. That's well worth that one, yeah. Stray77, just saw you there, mate. Okay, time for a new function. Print keyboard. Dun, 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 dun. I know in modern C you can, just do things like this, but I'm a little bit of an old habit type. I prefer to predefine my variables at the top as much as I can. Let's see. And I've got to hard code these damn. That's actually fine. I got to hard code these into hash defines, otherwise I'm going to get bitten sooner or later. But again, we're just trying to get the first product out. Okay. Yeah, let's say we just go with that. Come on. Key name. You ever been to Texas? No. Only been South Africa and a little bit of Europe. If A little bit of Europe is Switzerland, Germany. Yeah, that was it. Told you it was a little bit of Europe. Switzerland I loved. It was brilliant there. I really did love Switzerland. Okay. We are doing this backwards. Doing it backwards. And we don't need to see that anymore. Instead, we're going to have a whopping great big cluster of crap come up on the screen. Let's see. Print. Boo. 330. Scan codes. Blah, 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 blah. 334. Habits. Okay. Crash and burn. All right. Whew. So what keys are mapped at 10, 20, etc. There's no keys mapped at that. It's just trying to line break. Anyway, we crashed and burned. We can already see there's trouble up here. Because they are probably undefined and someone's going to make a mention of that any second now. They're going to go, I told you so. Yeah, because of this. See, we don't have those. And yes, okay, so this is where we come along and we... that's it. So again, I'm going to do the initialization. Well, you know what? I can do it down here and take that code up to the top. Key name. That's the long way of doing that. Cut. Paste. I'm embarrassed to say I used cut and paste rather than yank and pull. Yank and pop, push, whatever. Error I undeclared. You suck. I think every function in C by default should just have I 354. Unless you don't want it. Okay, let's try this again. Crash and burn. But this time. Yes, David. See, I told you the person would come and tell me. Didn't I tell you that? Yes. And that's slightly wrong too. It's slightly wrong because I'm actually zeroing the wrong thing. There we go. Still doing it wrong. You're going to make me do it the obtuse way, aren't you? Because it should be I. Okay. I had it right the first time. I just lost my nerve. Guess not. That shouldn't be it. Guess it was. It was. My bad. Okay, so you're probably looking at this and thinking, oh dear God, what a horrible, 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 horrible mess. But as we... Oh, damn it, can't change. Look up here and just keep an eye on that sort of area there. So get our window back. So backspace, tab space, minus. Can't do this very cleanly on PC keyboards. Anyway, as you can see, what I'm doing is a sort of a deductive display of what keys there are. Okay, well, that's pretty much my entire keyboard, I think. Maybe not. Okay, so I'm doing a deductive type display, so whatever comes up on the screen here is what hasn't been pressed, and that's sort of what I'm aiming for. So we've got down, up, okay, that's that. Non-US backslash, interesting. Obviously I don't have function keys beyond 13, and there's a few nulls there and stuff like that. English Hedgehog, because many a time I've had a MacBook keyboard and it's had one faulty key on it and I didn't catch it. So what I'm planning on doing here is having something that I will run. It will display me the full set of keys that can be pressed, and as I press them they get taken away until I'm left with what hasn't been pressed. Functionally, we're already there. Now what we've got is a whole basically representing it on the display. No, you're right, English Hedgehog. Why do I have such a hard time saying your name? The English Hedgehog. You really got to take a pause at the end there. Print keyboard. This here needs another. Yes, Marianne, yes. Oh yeah, that's right. No. Try that. Nope, still got my nulls. Why have I got my nulls there? Oh, I know why I've got nulls. Okay, so we got rid of the nulls, but a lot of this is really quite messy. And I guess this is now where we decide how we're going to cull out a lot of this stuff. A typical laptop keyboard will not have a great majority of this. So it's a case of how do I represent this effectively? So I suppose what you could do is you could have a parameter at the startup and sort of say whether you want a condensed sort of standard type keyboard, particularly for laptops, and you just leave off all of that other stuff. The trouble is a lot of the keys are represented further down in the array than I would have initially expected. Like left control, left that's at 224. Yeah, so you can't just cut it at a numerical level. You're going to have to nullify a lot of these. What's your opinion on finding the longest key name, then using fixed width column for each key so everything stays in line, then you get the screen min max? You could do that. I guess initially when it's dumping all of this stuff, you're probably not going to care too much. You're really just going to care what you end up with at the end of the process. So for me, like as a tester, I would just be like going, okay, I've got all this gibberish at the start. Let me press all the keys and let's see what I've got at the end. But I mean, yeah, your idea of having a nice even columns would be nice. Like I would rename a lot of these because man, we just cut paste this out of SDL. Like all these international, yeah, all these big name, big stringed ones, I would just shrink them down to something else. And obviously on typical laptop, you're not gonna. Actually, I'm kind of curious if the media keys would actually be mapped to the MacBook ones. Uh, Let me go get my. I'm gonna go get my laptop, my MacBook, and see if it comes up with the same. Let's see if they go to. Just give me a second. Okay. Good old 1502. You obviously can't see what I'm doing. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this source file onto here, run it, and see if it responds to the media keys up the top, which I imagine it should actually because they're mapped as F1 through to F12. So now that I'm looking at the keyboard, it would make sense that they would work. Anyway, let's see. CD development, make SCP minus R, 192.168.1.166. What's my folder here? Development, PLD, keyboard, tester. Okay, copied the code here. Hey, where the hell's my make file? Weird. Yeah, it's 166. Oh, right, I forgot to go into the folder. Huh, stupid. And like that, the code compiled, no dramas. That's a nice thing. I'm using the cross-platform stuff, and because I'm using that SDL config program to give me the C flags and the libraries, when I run it here on the Mac system, it just works. So keyboard tester. Okay. Let's see if this works. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have some fun on the MacBook one because it actually does unless you press the function key, the operating system overrides. Yeah. Anyway, yep. You can see it's running on there. But yeah, the macOS actually captures those keys before your program does. SDL2, that's what it is. It's been around for a long time. It's not the greatest media sort of library, but it does its job and it does it well. Macs, you're thinking of what language that they often use with Macs or Apple, but they're basically a Unix system, so they'll run whatever you want. Oh, geez, you got the frickin' Russians here now. The wrong kinds. Mr. Addict, no, I don't really do tutorial videos like that. Sorry, it's really not my thing. All right, so I may not even need to bring up that window. In fact, I don't see really a lot of point in bringing up the window at all. So we can just kill the whole GUI side of the SDL and just stick with the terminal. But suppose we might need to actually initialize. Ah, great. What have I done? Oops. Ah, okay, so I do need the window. Damn it. Alright. Looks like we need the window then. That's a shame. I was hoping to not have to do that. Yeah, this will be added into Git. And I can go and join my bazillion other open source programs that I've put up on Git over the years. Got stuff there that's from like 30 years ago almost. Boo, I've broken my code now. Okay. Alright, so we do need to... Mechanical keyboards do not like this. Definitely on MacBooks doing this sort of key run sequence where you can just run your fingers across the keys on the keyboard. They definitely make it easier. Yeah, I think we're done. Yep. So after we've done that, we've got a whole crap ton. Wait, how do I not do backspace? Minus equals. Okay. Apple systems, actually Apple systems are based on BSD, but anyway. Linux in itself is actually not officially a Unix, but you just get, that's a pedantic type thing. It's close enough in my opinion. Alright. Maybe I can put all this text into... Oh, that's nasty though. Pardon me. What I might be able to do is go along and group these keys into different blocks, and then I can represent these blocks on the window like in different areas. And so you'll have sort of like your normal letter inputs, your normal numerical inputs, your normal controls, your space bar and stuff like that, and just have them into separate groups. So I would have to go through and basically manually designate the grouping of each and every one of these as to what it belongs to. And then I can display that on the SDL black window that you see. So like in this section here, and as I, at least that way then, when you finish typing or trying to test the keyboard, you should have one or most of one or two blocks emptied out, and then the other ones that you don't care about, they'll just still be visible. Yeah. Count the keys on the keyboard test for the amount of unique keys. Show counter in the keyboard tester. The trouble is, how do you count the keys on the keyboard from a program perspective, other than perhaps then testing or asking the operating system what keyboard it thinks it is? It sort of pushes it into the zone of it's going to become more complicated than you want it to be for a portable application. I think, of course, I'm the programmer, so of course I'm going to think my idea is great, but I think putting them into separate blocks, depending on what they represent, is perhaps the best way. Hey Max, see you there. Trying to think now what the next step should be. So I kind of have to expand. I kind of have to create a structure for the keys. So struct, and you have and now we break our code. Yay! Let's see, scan codes. Okay. Now people are going to think, oh God, the man's gone mad, but this is a case of where you sometimes have to create code that seems excessive or perhaps redundant or long-winded in order to prepare for what you're going to do later. And so that's what we're going to go through now. We're going to end up creating more typing in some sections, but that will help us in the long run. Tux apparently, no, it's not going horribly wrong. We'd like you to program better search function in ABV. What the hell more do you want out of that code? 41, 341. Oh, crap, back here again. I'll do this in two rather than doing it a complicated way. For flip's sake. Right, that's why I did it in two. What you making today? I'm making a mess, Chris, making a mess. Peter Ellens, in the end, this really is more a case of producing a program that doesn't depend or isn't specific to a given keyboard model or anything. It's just simply a case of it will allow us to see all possible key scan codes and then allow us to see which ones have been pressed out of that lot. So it won't matter what the characters on the keys are, what's been printed on there, how many you've got, what orientation they are, or anything. It will provide the same functionality regardless, and that's why we're doing it this way. It's not a keylogger, Chris. Jeez. Talk about paranoid. Right, everything else has to be... Are you watching my webcam? What? Not your webcam. I'm only watching the ones I put in there years ago. Some interesting stuff you get up to. And now this is backwards. Blimey heck. Backwards relative to the names that I'm using for the variables. You do a fair bit of this sort of stuff. KGB Daniels. Ha! Oh look, divorce YTs got kicked off. God damn, I gotta kill that. 362. You drive me mad, Surface. I'm gonna need that after, actually. Once I start putting stuff onto the window, it's... Yeah. What? Wait, what? God, I hate the compilers sometimes. I hate these sort of compiler warnings where it's like, it's set, but it's not used. So it messes up your viewing. And you can nullify by adding this. Basically, you sort of adjust your compile flags so that you turn these warnings off. But it is frustrating at times seeing all that trash come up. Makes you think your code's all dodgy. I mean, sure, it is dodgy code, but it doesn't have to remind me every 10 minutes. Okay, so, yeah. The thing is that it is used. See here, it is used, but then not used again. So yeah, it's just frustrating. It makes, particularly when you're doing compile runs and you're looking for errors. That's the other thing. It's like by them making the compiler report all of these sort of errors, you start to become blind to the other warnings. You become blind to the warnings that actually are important because you're so used to seeing all these other warnings go off. So it's a case of too much information making you become less able to prevent your bugs. Well, yeah, I mean, you can disable the warnings, that's what I was saying. But I'm just sort of, at the same time, you're kind of like, it'd be nice if it, I guess it can't really differentiate between bad coding versus just normal scenarios. But yeah, information overload. You could always do a W error. That'll stop you. Okay, what's the time? Oh, crikey, it's past midnight. All right, look, I think I'm going to have to close up. We've done the first phase, and we've prepared now for the second phase, which is to start making it look pretty up on the screen here. Like we'll have one section there for the normal keys, a section for the numeric pad, a section for the function keys, a section for all the obscure keys. And a lot of that's going to mean that I'm going to have to go through and manually set what grouping they're in. Let's just do it now anyway. Let's do it part of it now. I'm trying to think how I'm best going to do this. W all, W extra. Yeah, that's just fun. Yeah. Oh yeah, let's create a 3D keyboard of OpenGL. Why not? Yeah, I'll leave that to Pound. So basically, we really want to dump all of these ones. Okay, this is how you write code to write code. People are going to go, what? What's he going on about? We're going to write code to write code. Here we go. Now I'm trying to think how best to do this. Get the scan codes. Key mod. That's what I want. Okay. Right, so why is it sending an email to what? I can't tell if people are just making up crap or not. What was I trying to do? Wrong keyboard bash. There we go. What? Okay, dump remaining is basically going to be a variation of this. So copy, paste. I should be really using yank and anyway. Group is what I want, isn't it? Yep. Hope this works. Okay. Okay, Control Q. Gotcha. Ah, oh, son of a bitch. You. You bugger. Damn you. Okay. Let's do that all again. Because this stupid shell buffer. Okay, now we can say if key is pressed, la 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 la, and G keys I dot group equals 0. Wrong. Interesting, I've got a calculate button here apparently. Huh, that's funny as. Oh, I do too, yeah. Huh, didn't see that. Should be getting real close to nothing now. What have I got? And that's it. That's our whole keyboard. At least this version of it. So obviously there's a Mac's going to have slightly different version of it. But I've got a starting point here now that I can reliably use. like all this group 1 stuff is basically outside of the normal 104 keyboard type range. B and C, what the hell are you talking about? Down, no. Down, that down you can see, that is actually from the prior press iteration. It's not from, I should make a, there we go, more coding. What's going on here? Cap lock's on, no wonder. Oops. Yeah, that's stuff that doesn't matter. What I was trying to say before here is when we print the keyboard, we should really have. I know this is redundant, but it's a habit. Pardon me. Okay, let's go through it all again. And someone lost their focus. Shoot. Don't lose focus. Okay, let's try that again. Now that I've completely ruined Vim. God knows what I've done in Vim. I probably created a time portal. Okay, left key. No, wrong. There we go. So as you can see, it's now completely blank. And now I have to go and see what crazy damage I've done in Vim. Buffer, delete. Amazingly, it doesn't seem like I've done much. Crazy. Amazing. Space Invaders game. Close enough, yeah. Okay, so we've got the fundamentals. That's what matters. And from the fundamentals, we can build. So I guess now I should create a Git for it. Would you mind sharing a quick scroll through your vimrc? Sure. I haven't looked at it in quite a while. There you go. That's my vimrc. Chris, it's Thursday, May the 6th, 2066. You're looking pretty old too. Alright. I've got to gitify this. I can do that offline though for the first part. Keyboard tester is a bit non-original, but it'll do the trick for me. Add a license. We'll make this BSD3 clause. Okay. Ooh. Create a dangling reference there. And there it is. Easy done. Ah, man. Indenting's a bit painful. Oh well, worry about that another day. Uh, can you test my website environment? No. Try to submit a PR by the end of the day. Huh! I'll be rejecting all PRs for at least a week. How many repos do you use? I've got quite a lot of repos. You mean like Git type? I've only basically using GitHub for the most part. But in terms of personal repositories, there we go. I've got 35. Not all of them are mine. But like things like cups. That was me fixing up. Speaking of which, I don't think they fixed up my damn code. I sent them a PR and see if they've even fixed it. Oh, oh, that's my own. Duh. No, Tom, it's actually not going to be required. That's the whole thing about this program is that it's not going to require keyboard layouts. It's just strictly going by scan codes, and all I'm going to do is with that group sort of variable that I had in there, it will just group the keys into sort of separate blocks on the screen. Pardon me. And then at least you'll know whether, okay, that group doesn't really apply to my keyboard. So you can just ignore it, and you'll be able to just focus primarily on clearing out all of the keys on the main type keys that you expect on there. So I'm just seeing whether they probably haven't done anything with it. Da, da, da. There we go. Nope, they haven't done anything on it yet. They're really slack. And this is from Apple. Basically, the problem was that if you had two printers of the same type that reported the same serial number through the IE 1284 interface or something like that, or that string, yeah, 1284, then so far as cups is concerned, they're identical printers. They are actually the same printer because it won't be able to differentiate between them because the serial numbers will be the same according to their existing parsing system. And it's been a bug that's been in there for God knows how long. So I finally found that because I had these two Dymo printers and I could never get them both to work. And so a couple of days of tracking that down, I finally did submit the pull request, and yeah, Apple doesn't care. So, let me get rid of this. Quick change of subject. Do we get the rescheduled X launch on Saturday? Yeah. I'm not telling. People bet money on it, and that will alter the outcome. Okay. So yeah, there's all these lots and lots of little utility things that I build or have built over the years. Probably the most popular ones that I've ever done is this thing called RipMime and Ultimime. RipMime was a program I wrote back in 1997, I think. And when you have emails come in from a mail server, they are sort of usually 7 or 8-bit ASCII text files, and your attachments and things like that are in there are encoded in many different ways. In fact, emails in general, the whole standard is a complete and utter cluster. Anyway, so there were a lot of exploits back in the day regarding what they would do is they would find ways that the standard would say one thing but Outlook would say another, and so people would craft packages that would bypass normal filtering systems that would say, according to the standard, pull out all the attachments, and that bad attachment would not show up. So anyway, RipMine was created to do that, pull apart the packages, but also look at the possible packages, attachments that could come out if you violated the standards. And so I think, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of downloads that thing's had, but it was one of my more popular pieces of software. Ultimime is a similar sort of thing, except that it's used for adding disclaimers, headers, footers, things like that. So all email type stuff, because that's where I used to make most of my money. Is I produced a thing called Xamime, and it was a content management filtering system, so that all your corporate emails would go through it. They'd get checked for things that you weren't allowed to send, and that happened a lot back then when the internet was particularly expensive. So people would be like sending bitmaps, like actual BMPs, usually CC to 1 million people, and it wouldn't be a very efficient CC. Like most of the time, it went to all different kinds of servers rather than just one or two. So you'd have that bitmap size times however many different servers it was going to. Anyway, so yeah, I had that, and I made a good amount of money with that. Even Virgin was using it for a bit, and National Foods, National Australia Bank, quite a lot of companies, but Google sort of now has come along and handled that side of things a lot more. Even I don't use it anymore. I just use Google Mail. It's just easier. Is this what? The B4STL adware? No, it's not adware. Lambo money? Not quite, no. It could have been, but I didn't. Pico Flexbot. Oh yeah, I forgot I wrote that. That's a teeny tiny IRC bot. Let's see. Undark was the thing that I wrote for iPhones, or pretty much any Android phones as well, because they all use SQLite 3 databases. And for a while there, if people deleted things off their iPhone, so long as they didn't sync with iTunes again, I believe, you could take the SQLite database off the iPhone and you can find all the stuff that they deleted by using Undark. Because most of the time with the SQLite databases, because they are a flat file, it was not economical in terms of time to go and recompact that database, so they'd just simply flag the various rows or tuples, whatever you want to call them. They'd just flag them as deleted, but they'd still be in there. Hey, Sonia? Yeah, it becomes Ford Pinto money now, yeah. But anyway, I mean, I wasn't upset about the fact that Google came in. They did a much better. They had the resources to do a much better job at the end of the day. So, and I'm fine with that. I just moved on to new projects like Open Boardview. But there was a fairly big 10-year gap between me finishing up with my email filtering type systems and picking up Open Boardview. So. All right, well, I think that about does it. So, yeah, if you guys want to have a look at the code, it's right there on... yeah. I probably won't take any pull requests at this point because it's still so much in the pre-alpha state that I am going to be morphing it a lot more. So if you do any PRs on it, then I'm probably going to reject them simply because of the fact that it's like, no, I'm not heading in that direction. Or it may be simply a case of I don't myself know where I want to go. And if I take on PRs, then that unnaturally constrains me to a particular path. So probably the best way to go about it if you want to play with it is you just fork it, do your own version, and I'll do my own version, and then we'll reconvene in about 3 or 4 years. Yes, I need some ice cream. Thank you. You didn't add in the requested test outputs. What? I'm not doing any test outputs. Stuff that. Yep. All right, we're out of here. So, thank you very much. A bit of a different stream. That's the way it goes. I try to chop and change it, I guess. Don't do too many programming streams because it's difficult to code and talk. Okay, it's kind of like chewing gum and walking. You just can't do that sort of thing at the same time. So, I'm out of here, getting some ice cream. You take care. I'll see you next time.